Hi, in this video we are going to talk about 3D objects. In the previous video we talked about the cameras, but now we know how to handle the cameras, we need to fill our 3D environment with objects. So for starters, I'm going to start with a very simple object, in this case a 3D sphere. So we have a sphere here, and the first thing you have to keep in mind when we work with 3D objects is that every single object that we render on a 3D environment is usually made by triangles. It's hard to see when you look at like this sphere right now, but just to show you, you could see that this sphere is made by all these points, and if we connect every single one of these points with its neighbors, we will have this shape. In this case, all these tiny triangles, and then if we fill these triangles with an adequate shading, we will have something more similar to the sphere we had before. So even if you see any kind of complex shape, they are always made by triangles, and the more triangles we have, the more complex shapes we can have. So instead of using the sphere, I'm going to import a different kind of object. So usually when you want to have 3D objects in your scene, you have to load them from a 3D file. In this case, I have here some files with different shapes. I'm going to drag, for instance, this object here. I'm going to insert it in my scene. So this is like a cup, and as I said before, it's a 3D object, but as I say, it's made by all these points that define the vertices of the mesh, and if you connect all of them, you have the 3D mesh. But because we are going to fill it, we are going to have this nice cup. And I'm going to drag another one, in this case, like this one. This is a teapot. I'm going to insert it here. So now we have two objects, but the problem we have here is that both objects are using the same 3D space, so they overlap, and we don't want that to happen. So when you have 3D objects, the next thing you have to keep in mind is that move the objects around, and you should apply some transformations. To do so, usually there's different actions that you can perform. In these 3D environments, the best way to move objects is using these tools over here. In this case, this tool is the move tool. This kind of shape you are looking right now on the screen is called a gizmo, and help us to move objects around. So in this case, if I want to move the object in that direction, I put the mouse on top of this axis and I drag it. Okay, and if I want to move it up or down, I can move it up and down. But if I want to make the scene like the teapot, it's pouring tea inside the cup, I need to not only move the object around, I also need to rotate the object. So for rotating, there's also these gizmos, and I can click in this gizmo, I can drag it, and now I have like this teapot more in slope. And finally, there's another very common transformation, which is called scale, that allows us to take any object and change the size of the object. Okay, so I'm going to leave it like this. So this is the way that we can fill our environment. We drag new files, we move them around so we can create our scene. If you want to create these 3D files, there are different softwares to creating new meshes, or you can go to the internet. There's many databases where you can download new 3D files. But you have to keep in mind that every 3D file comes from a different file format. So in this case, I'm using OBJ, which is a very standard format for 3D meshes, but there's many other formats, and every application maybe or maybe not support this 3D mesh. So in the next video, I'm going to be talking a little bit more about lights, so you understand better how to set up your scene.